All right, my friends, welcome into episode 215 of the Leaning Into Leadership podcast. This is a very special episode. In fact, I'll take it a step further. This is a very special series, a 6-part series over the next 3 weeks in which you'll get the opportunity to hear conversations that I have had with each of the National Principal of the Year finalists for NASSP's National Middle School Principal of the Year and National High School Principal of the Year. Every Tuesday, starting today, for the next 3 weeks, you will hear from one of the middle school finalists. And every Thursday, starting in just a couple of days, you will hear from each of the 3 finalists for the National High School Principal of the Year. Before I go on, I have to say thank you to NASSP. Thank you to Adam Davis, to Ron Nozoe, the entire team at NASSP. Thank you for trusting me with each of these 6 finalists and giving me the opportunity to sit down and have these conversations with them. This is going to be an incredible series, folks. And by the way, we'll continue still releasing regular episodes every Sunday. But Tuesdays and Thursdays for the next 3 weeks, it is National Principal of the Year opportunities for those conversations. Man, it's going to be amazing. So here we go. First up, Dr. Damon Lewis, the principal of Ponus Ridge STEAM Academy in Norwalk, Connecticut. Man, I'll tell you what, under his leadership, this middle school has seen a 23-point drop in chronic absenteeism, a surge in student achievement, expanded equity and accelerated coursework, and an unwavering commitment to systems level change. Now, from his own journey growing up in Bridgeport and attending Yukon on a football scholarship to becoming a passionate advocate for public education and equity, Dr. Lewis brings an amazing and authentic voice to leadership. This episode is filled with real talk about transformation, culture, vision, and this relentless belief that every single student matters. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation, so let's waste no time at all. Let's dive into the story, the vision, and the impact of Dr. Damon Lewis, finalist for the NASSP National Middle School Principal of the Year. All right, everybody, welcome back into the Leaning Into Leadership podcast. Very, very special edition of the podcast this week. We are sitting down and having conversations with each of the 3 finalists for the NASSP's Middle School Principal of the Year. For those of you just tuning in, just kind of wrapping your brain around that, NASSP is the National Association of Secondary School Principals, and 3 individual middle school principals from the collective group of Principals of the Year across every one of the states and DC have been selected as finalists for the very prestigious National Middle School Principal of the Year. And we're sitting down today for this conversation with Damon Lewis, who is the principal of Ponus Ridge STEAM Academy in Norwalk, Connecticut. Now, I'll tell you this, under Damon's leadership, Ponus Ridge STEAM Academy, which is a 6-8 middle school, has reduced chronic absenteeism from 31% to 8% in 1 year. Holy smokes, can't wait to hear about that. His school has increased the number of minority students in the gifted and talented program and the number of female students in accelerated math. He has championed an equity-driven and every day counts culture, where PSAT scores for 8th grade students outpaced national, state, and district metrics. He's the facilitator for Black male administrator cohort in the district, and he mentors younger principals. He has expanded course offerings to include coding, computer science, robotics, music technology, and immersive media, more than 20 after-school clubs, his Hispanic parent group, and in-school food pantry for families, and a care closet. Wow. Amazing stuff happening at Ponus Ridge STEAM Academy Middle School in Norwalk, Connecticut. Dr. Damon Lewis, welcome into Leaning Into Leadership.
Thank you, Darren, for that great introduction. I appreciate the acknowledgement and recognition of what we're doing at Ponus Ridge Middle School. And I always use the term we, because it is a we award. It's a we statement. It's a we school. And in leadership, we all know that we don't work in silos, right? And we surround ourselves with great people. And I'm just happy to be here and happy to be a finalist for this national award. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to have you tell us a little bit of your journey, and I want to preface it with this. Regular listeners and watchers of the show know that I was a 2016 Principal of the Year, and I remember showing up in Washington D.C. and meeting the other, you know, all of the different state principals of the year, and honestly building some really good relationships over time with all of them. But we sometimes will make this just assumption that everybody has walked the same walk in order to get into that room, and we know that's not true. So I would love to hear just a little bit of Damon's journey to where now I know this is your 10th year as the principal there at Ponus Ridge. So share a
Hmm.
little bit of your history with our listeners.
You know, my journey actually starts in high school. If I can go back that far, um, I give a huge shout out to Harding High School in Bridgeport, Connecticut. That's when I first really fell into the numbers game of education, Darren. Harding is a large urban high school, about 1,700 kids. Um, it was maybe 99% minority and 100% free and reduced lunch. And at that time, I was really introduced to the numbers game in data, and I didn't even know it. um, Class sizes were pretty big, 30 kids, possibly 25 desks, 18 books, the typical. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I've got to run through every single hallway just to get to class, just to make sure I get a seat and I get a book.
Yeah.
So, so at that young age, I discovered that things were inequitable and not, proportionate to what people needed, um, specifically students and families from marginalized communities. And at that time, when I graduated from Harding High School, um, I'm going to say that's where my achievement gap was birthed, honestly, because I graduated eighth in my class in high school. Okay, honor society member. But then I go to college. I went to University of Connecticut, and I'm taking a non-credit math class because I didn't do well enough on the math entry exam at Yukon. And here I'm sitting there like, wait a minute, I was eighth in my class.
Yeah.
I was a National Honor Society member. I did this and I did that, but I'm sitting in this class. Um, so it's never a knock on Harding. I love Harding High School with all of, with all of my heart. I talk about it every single time I have the opportunity to speak with people, but it really taught me um, how to be very resourceful, how to not take anything for granted, how to make sure that I had things in place for me because I wanted to be successful. And that actually started my walk into education somewhat. Um, so then I go to Yukon. I was fortunate enough to go to Yukon on a full football scholarship. A lot of people don't know that. So I went to school on a full
That's
football
awesome.
scholarship. So I was a true student athlete, and I had 4 full scholarship offers coming out of high school. So I chose Yukon because it was close to home, and I'll talk about that more a little bit later. Um, so I'm at Yukon, and mind you, in eighth grade, my parents got divorced. They split up. Okay, so I go to Yukon, and at the beginning of my 12th grade year, let me go back. The beginning of my 12th grade year, um, my father, after that, my family got divorced. My father was tragically murdered. Okay, so divorce in eighth grade, father's shot and killed in 12th grade. I go to Yukon with a lot of stuff on my heart, a lot of stuff on my chest.
Yeah.
I didn't go to counseling. I never, because it just wasn't big back then. You kind of pulled yourself up by the bootstraps and you did what you had to do to make it. So going to Yukon, my mother's driving me, and I'm thinking in my head, it was really the drive, and I called it the drive because it was the mental drive and that inner metal to be successful and not go back to what transpired, but it was also that physical drive to actually be the best student athlete as well. So there was a lot going into it. And I originally went to Yukon to major in business. right? So I wanted this huge corner office. I wanted the $1 million salary, X, Y, and Z. But thank God my mother, she continued to send me letters and articles from our local newspaper about kids that I had grown up with that were getting arrested, that had gotten killed, that were not doing the right thing. And I'm like, God, I just graduated with those guys a couple months ago. Like what's so right then and there, Darren, towards the end of my freshman year, I said, you know what? How selfish is it of me to sit in a corner office and make money when there's people that look like me and people from my community that are not doing well, not doing good. So right then I changed my major to English education, right then and there. I gave up the business dream. I gave up the $1 million before I even had it. and I said, you know what? Education is the best way to give back, and educating people about, fighting through adversity, going through some fire, right? Going through some fire, but being able to come out on the other side as a different person with a little bit of heat, Now I've got the
Yeah.
fire, but I've gone through it. So now what am I going to do? So I changed English education, graduated Yukon with degrees in English and sociology. I was a double major. I ended up being the captain of our football team in 1994. I was one of three. I was a tri-captain. So a lot of people don't know that about me because I don't talk about football a lot because
Yeah.
that was, in the past. But it's driven me and it's made my journey so much more appreciative because the things that I once had. And the things that I have now. So when we talked before we started recording, when I told you, I don't know what I'm doing sitting here.
Yeah.
That's part of it. So I graduate, I go into education, start as a paraeducator. So I really started as a paraeducator. And I taught high school English for a couple years, and then I went back and I received my master's in school counseling. So then I became a school counselor. And I went back, ironically, Darren, I was a paraprofessional at my former high school. I went right back to Harding. I graduated, I went right back to Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Yeah.
I did my years of teaching in Bridgeport, Connecticut in the same high school. And then I went back to school as I noted to get my counseling degree. And I said, you know what? I want to see something different. I've been in urban education as an urban education student, as an urban education educator. So I said, I want to see something different because it's got to be different.
Yeah.
It can't be like this all over. So, and again, never ever saying anything disparaging about Harding High School. I love it. Love the people, love my mentors, but it just pointed out a lot. Again, love Harding High School, shout them out all the time. So I took a school counseling job in a neighboring town in a suburb where it's totally different. The demographic was totally different. It was maybe 95% white and 5% minority. And I was the only minority staff member in the building of a large suburban high school of about 2,500. Okay. And I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it, Darren, because Yukon, when I went to Yukon was predominantly white. So I learned, I was used to the setting, I was used to the setting. I tell everyone, can you just imagine a black male football player who also was an English major? Put that in your head.
Yeah.
Right? Put that in your head, right? Black
Yeah.
male football player studying Shakespeare and Chaucer and Old English, right? At 6'2", 235 pounds. So, so I went to this suburban high school, great experience. And then I took my first administrative job at an alternative high school. And it was 55 students, but it was 55 students,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
That had been removed from their traditional high schools and, ankle bracelets, monitors, probation officers, and I did that for 2 years. And you know what? I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Darren, I just love the work. I love the work. I love what I do. And thank goodness for people that believed in me and didn't give up on me when when times weren't that good.
Yeah.
Um, so then I did that for 2 years. I finished my doctorate degree. So at that time, when I finished my doctorate, Darren, I had accumulated 5 degrees. Okay, so now I'm sitting here with 5 degrees, my high school diploma, um, and my dad had missed all of them. So I know he's watching from up above, but so then I said, you know what, I have my doctorate, I'm going to apply to Norwalk Public Schools. So applied to Norwalk Public Schools, um, had a first round interview, second round interview. By the time I got home from my second round interview, there was a message on the phone and said, you know what, we want to hire you as an assistant principal. And at that time, I had a choice whether to go to the high school, one of the high schools in Norwalk, or the middle school. Okay. So I'd done the high school route already, right? So I said, let me try the middle school. I've never done middle school. So I landed up at Ponus Ridge Middle School, and I started as an assistant principal, and I did that for 4 years, and I learned so much. I was almost back into a similar environment as I was at Harding, where I went and where I had my early education career. Um, so I go to Ponus Ridge, and I'm the assistant principal, and I learned a lot. I got to know the staff. When I went to Ponus, Ponus was honestly considered probably Ponus is a Cinderella story, Darren. We weren't always where we are now. We had a lot of issues in the building, concerns, high suspension rate, low student achievement, um, more kids sometimes in the office than in class. Um, so it was a huge culture shift. It was a change in staff mindset. It was a change in student mindset. It was a change in family mindset, community mindset. To now, Darren, we are the most coveted middle school in the city. We have 11 elementary schools in our city, and we have kids from 10 of them because we have an open choice system. So kids can choose and families can choose where they want to go. So everyone says Ponus is like the Cinderella story. A lot of people say they make it analogous to the Drake song, started from the bottom. Now we're here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've actually gone through a lot in our building, and it's a lot of getting. I'm a big fan of Jim Collins and Good to Great and Great
Mhm.
by Choice. Huge fan, huge fan. We had good people on the bus. We really did. But Jim Collins talks about now you've got good people on the bus. You got to get them in the right seats.
Yeah.
You got to get them in the right seats. So now we got the right people in the right seats over the past couple years, and things are really starting to move. Um, Everything's starting to move in the right direction. And I truly believe that education can change the life trajectory of someone. It really can. It did for me. So
Yeah.
if it could for me, why can't it for other people? I'm trying to be that example of what education can do and what belief in kids and scholars can do to help people achieve and change their life situation. Education is something we are trying to collectively put an end to public housing, poverty, discrimination, uh, 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 vast inequities in marginalized communities, regardless of skin color. Regardless of skin color, there are poor black people, poor brown people, poor white people. It's it. Poverty doesn't have a have a color, right?
Yeah.
Death doesn't have a color. When it knocks, it knocks. And when poverty knocks and hits, it doesn't care what color you are. So through education, we're trying to provide all these opportunities to kids and families and show them the belief that, you know, if you remain focused and you surround yourself with good people, that you can be successful. Success is relative, but someone may say being successful for me, Dr. Lewis, is I just want to move out and get my family out of public housing and I get older. That's my success story.
Yeah.
Someone else's success story is I just want to be able, instead of being able to afford a hamburger, I want a cheeseburger. I can spend that extra 50 cents and get a piece of cheese on it. So, and at Ponus Ridge, where we're providing all these opportunities to kids that typically may not happen in urban schools. I mean, as you read, we're providing coding and computer science and digital literacy and immersive media, and we set those expectations, and the kids don't have a choice not to meet the expectation. Like, there's no choice. You don't have a choice. You talked about every day counts, dear. We don't waste a day. We do not waste a day. And we talk about, I talk about a lot the 5 Ps, right? I don't know if you're familiar with the 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. I'll say it again. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. We have made a hard-lined effort in our building to be intentional, to be deliberate around everything. Nothing happens by mistake, right? Hope and faith are not strategies. Well, let's just hope that it works, right? We'll pray that it works. No, hope and faith are not strategies. Intentional, deliberate actions, steps with your instructional leadership team, with your teacher team forms, with your scheduled walkthroughs and observation and your feedback cycles and your loops, and your focusing on your instructional core. And if one changes, the other has to change. And we've got to make sure that kids are always, right, working on grade level standards and tasks. And if kids need those scaffolds and those differentiated materials to get there, God darn it, we got to get it to them. We cannot waste a day. We can't. We only have 6.5 hours a day, Darren. Our building opens at 8 o'clock and we get out at 2:50. That's a small amount of time. We've got to maximize every single second, because some of our kids are coming in below grade level. So we've got to ramp up, right? We've got to ramp things up. And again, I talked about, accelerating and intervening simultaneously. That's our building. That's all buildings, I hope, that you're pushing the kids that need to be pushed and also supporting the kids that need to support. I mean, that's a classroom. You've got a classroom with kids that have a 1200 Lexile level in 8th grade, but you've got some kids that have a 600 Lexile. And the staff is like, Dr. Lewis, we've got to do. What does that kid need? Does that kid have to go to the high school for an advanced math class? Can we set up a carpool? Everything's on the table.
Yeah.
Everything is on the table, Darren.
Yeah. So I got to ask, I mean, some amazing things. And one, I mean, again, you have rendered a podcaster speechless for almost 20 minutes, which almost never happens.
I'm sorry.
Man, no, don't apologize. I have absolutely enjoyed just listening to you. And I have several things in my head I want to jump out, and ask and just really dig in for our listeners who are thinking, oh my gosh, how do I create that? How do I create that? How do I create that? And not from like a program perspective or, I wanted to ask, from the very beginning, wow, how do you cut absenteeism from 31% to 8% in a year? But this is more now in my head, not just about, individual things that you guys have addressed, but rather a full system within your school. And what it really takes me to is what is clearly a very vivid vision in your head of where Ponus Ridge needs to be, and that you're well on your way to that vision. For our listeners, let's go in this direction. Talk about, in your time there, so you've been there now, it sounds like 14 years. You were an assistant principal for 4 years, 10 years as the principal. Over time, certainly that compelling vision has shaped itself over time. What are some of the things that maybe have helped you create that vision? How when did that vision start to become very clear for you for the school? And maybe what are some things you've done to ensure, because to me it sounds like everyone who is a part of the staff at Ponus knows what the vision is,
Mm.
and they know what their responsibility is in that vision. That to me is great leadership. So talk about creating that, finding that vision and creating that vision.
You know what? It's thank you for the question, Darren. It's I always talk about the principal chair and leadership, and it's analogous to getting your first house or your first condo is something you first own, right? I say
Yeah,
it's going to take 3 to 5 or 6 years to get it exactly how you want it, right? You don't buy the house
very true.
and it already has the stainless steel refrigerator and the marble countertops, and it's analogous to buying your first house, right? You put up the fence. It takes some time. Please know it doesn't happen overnight. It takes some courageous conversations. It takes some reflection. It takes getting the, as I noted, the right people on the bus, but also in the right seats on the bus. Um, it takes focus groups, student and staff, and families, and community members. It takes a lot of patience. It really does. And you can't, if something's going to be sustainable with no leadership, it's gotta have teeth in it. It can't be a fly by night. And as I know, the hope and faith are on the strategy. So everything in our building is system and structured, run on systems and structures, even down to the point where we have an electronic system for students to sign out to use the restroom. We have a system for that. We have a structure for that. Um, we're a PBIS school, so we have systems and structures around that as well. But again, it takes some creative conversations, and the way that I went about it is, I sat down, I met with every staff member, right? I visited every local church in Norwalk that fed into my school. And I stood up as a visitor and I said, "Hi, I'm Dr. Damon Lewis. I know I was the assistant principal at Ponus STEAM Academy, but now I'm the principal and I'm inviting you into our building. I have something that we call Walkthrough Wednesdays. The third Wednesday of every month, I open up our front doors to our school and we let in anyone that wants to come in for a walking, talking tour throughout our building in real time with our students and staff. So if something happens, it happens. Nothing's choreographed, nothing scripted. And we get families that come in from our elementary schools. We get community agencies that come in and walk around, and they get either myself, my assistant principal, two of my assistant principal, and or my dean, who I have to shout out. Evan Byron, assistant principal, fantastic. Colleen Brosnan, assistant principal, fantastic. Ashley Glow, dean of students at Ponus Ridge, fantastic. We have a great team. We really do. So Walk Through Wednesdays, we take this walking, talking tour. We gain feedback from families. What do you like? What do you don't like? We don't go in classrooms. We don't disrupt instruction, but we get their feedback. What's working? What's not working? What do we need to work on? That happened pre-COVID. COVID put a break on everything. So we started that back this year, and we get 10 to 15 families every Wednesday, every month on the third Wednesday. So we talk about the things that have happened to shape that culture and to bring people in and to invite all stakeholders and know that our classroom, our building just doesn't exist in those four walls, nor does a classroom. It goes out to the community, right? With our community agencies and all the families that come into our building and all the community agencies that have spaces in our building for our students. So it's, again, there's not a secret sauce. It's a lot of roll your sleeves up and just
Yeah.
get the work done. You can't say, "Oh, I want this to happen," because I know as a believer that prayer and faith without work is just prayer, right? You've got to pray, but you've got to work too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And there's this we've got this huge buy-in. And through those individual conferences with teachers, and we tell them the vision, this is where we're going, that all kids can learn regardless of social and economic background. whether they get dropped off in the latest Mercedes Benz, or their grandmother drops them off in a station wagon, or they get dropped off in an Uber. It is our obligation to make sure kids are learning and kids are doing what they need to do to be successful. And I and our team is going to hold you accountable for it. Going to hold you accountable for it. And I don't want to say it's that simple, because it's not, but it's a lot of work. And it's a lot, like I said, a lot of reflection, a lot of inward thought. I think one of the most underrated skills in leadership, Darren, and I think people take this for granted. I think one of the most underrated skills in leadership is listening. Okay? When you
100%.
listen, that's where you get, I mean, don't say a word. Throw a prompt out there and just listen. We still have staff focus groups, because we're constantly trying to improve. What can we do better? What can we offer? How can we tighten this up? And we sit there as an admin team and we listen. We don't talk. We put the prompt up and we listen, and we take copious notes, and then we meet as a team and we discover certain themes, right? And through lines, right? Through lines, what people are really saying. And we develop that problem of practice. You know, we have the data, right? We get the data from the focus groups, and then from the data, Darren, we develop that problem of practice. And then from the data and the problem of practice, we develop that theory of action, right? If we do this and we do this, then this will happen, you know? So we take all those things and we develop these intentional, deliberate steps, you know? And as a leader, selfishly and competitively, you know, I kind of drew a line in the sand when enough is enough. Ponus is not going to be at the bottom anymore. We've got great teachers. We got great staff. Enough is enough. Now, if you're on the boat with that and you want to come along, come on. If not, I'd hate to lose you, but I'm not going to hold on your legs saving you. If you don't think this is the right place for you, and it's nothing personal, I tell the staff, it's nothing personal, but if your vision is not aligning with our school vision, then maybe this is not the place for you. I'm
So
sorry.
very well said.
That's the
Yeah.
truth. I can only speak
Yeah.
the truth. I can only
Yeah.
speak the truth there. That's it.
Yeah. But you know, Damon, so many school leaders struggle with saying that.
No.
So many school leaders are, you know, and we hear it all the time, right? You know, there's a teacher shortage, and, you know, I'm worried that I'll lose people and I won't be able to fill the role. And so they tolerate or they accept less than. And you said something before we hit the record button. And I just want to touch on this quickly, but you said that kind of the mantra at Ponus has become, so what, now what? And you don't get to a place where you're comfortable saying that, where it's not just a cliche, without being so crystal clear about, number one, that vision, number two, how you're going to get there, and number three, the alignment, not just you, not just you and your leadership team, not even just you, the leadership team and the staff, but clearly the community. You are all aligned. And I can't say enough about what great leadership that is. There's zero question in my mind, not that I had any from the beginning, why you are a finalist for the National Middle School Principal of the Year. Holy
Thank you.
smokes, what you guys have going on is absolutely amazing. So talk real quick about so what, now what? How has that become a mantra?
You know what, I'm gonna contradict myself for a second, because they say, you know, when you have too many priorities, you have no priorities, right? If you have 10 priorities, you've got none. So we have a couple mantras there, and I will say, so what, now what is one. Progress, not perfection, is another one. Every day counts is another one. Be better than yesterday. Just be better than yesterday. Our kids need you to be 1% better than yesterday. That's it. So what, now what is, I'm a young man. I don't make a lot of excuses. I don't make any excuses. Okay. I learned at a young age that excuses, and one of my mentors told me this statement. He said, Damon, you're going to face a lot of things in your life, and the world doesn't want to hear about excuses, regardless. They said, specifically, he said, especially as a black man, the world doesn't want to hear excuses. So he always told me, he said, excuses are monuments of nothingness that build bridges to nowhere. Okay? He said, you're young, you won't remember this, but I remembered it, Darren.
Yeah.
He said, excuses are monuments of nothingness that build bridges to nowhere. Nowhere. You're not going anywhere with an excuse. So the so what now what kind of plays into that, and I addressed it a little bit. We get a lot of our kids that come from our elementary feeders, right? And in the past, and I'm make sure I'm emphasizing the past, our elementary feeders were the three lowest performing feeders in the district, and they all came to Ponus. Okay, they all came to Ponus, and
Yeah.
so my mantra and our mantra was, so what? Now what? We've got them.
Right.
What are we going to do now that they're in our system and in our school community, right? You were a high school principal, Darren, middle
Yep.
school,
Hmm.
high school principal. Okay, so I'm sure, because I know my staff used to do it in the middle school level. What are they doing in fifth grade? What are they, right?
Oh yeah, it's
And
always
that,
blame down, right? Yep, it's blame down.
right,
Yeah.
right, right. And as a high school principal, what are they doing in eighth grade? How come they're
Yeah.
so we adopted
Oh
this
yeah.
model. So what now what? We've got kids coming in below grade level. Okay, we know that. So what are we going to do about it? We're still going to hold them to grade level standards with scaffolds and differentiated tasks and bridges to get to that standard. We're still going to have the same expectations in the classroom. We're still going to have tier 2 interventions for reading and math, right? We're still going to have strong tier 1 instruction. So what is the excuse? We cannot say that because this kid's life is on the line. His life's on the line. And it's our job to make sure that we do the best we possibly can before this kid leaves in eighth grade. And that's why I wanted to point out, we may get them that way in sixth grade, but we take those PSATs in eighth grade, right? And we've
Yeah.
exposed them to those standards. For 3 years, Darren, we've exposed it to them. So when they take that PSAT in grade 8, which is a standards aligned assessment, they're outgrowing the district, the state, and the nation. Outgrew in points. I mean, plus 35 points. The nation may have grown 10 points. I mean, we're still below a little bit, but our growth was ridiculous because we adopted this so what now what attitude, and that every single kid matters. Every single kid. And I say this, Darren, and have this passion. I know I like to talk with my hands because go back to our about 20 minutes ago, I was that kid.
Yeah.
I was the achievement gap in high school. I graduated 8th in my class and I still took a no credit math class, right? So I see myself in the kid. So selfishly, I will say, I take this job really personal, Darren. I do.
Yeah.
I take it personal. And I'm glad I didn't sit in the corner office and make $1 million. I'm glad I didn't do it, because I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in and impacting the lives that I'm impacting and working with a great staff and great kids and great families and identifying, data. Everything's based on data. And I taught the data that we have, develop that problem of practice, and then develop that theory of action, and then go to work. Then go to work on chronic absenteeism, on increasing the number of minority students in gifted and talented programs, increasing the number of females in accelerated math. That all start reducing our suspension numbers. We found out last year, 2 years ago, that 15% of our kids accounted for 80% of our suspensions. So, Darren,
Right. Yeah.
what do you think my team did last summer? 2 summers ago, and we'll do it again this summer. What do you think we did over the summer? We went to houses. We
There
knocked
you
on
go.
doors. We sat in the living rooms with the kids and their parents. We developed goals. We talked about where they see themselves, right? We did, and to me, doesn't everybody do that? I say, doesn't everybody do that? That's what and
Unfortunately, no.
doesn't
Yeah.
everybody do that? I mean, you identify a data point. You have time in the summer. The kids aren't there. You've got a schedule for next year, but we look at the data and thank goodness, like I said, for my team is great. Evan Byron, I shout them out again. Evan Byron, Ashley Glow, Colleen Brosnan. We've really worked well together. And I know we work well together because you look at the leadership compass, the north, the south, the east, and the west, we all represent one of the points. So we have one of us is a north, one of us is south, one of us is east, one of us is a west. So we balance each other. Again, that's getting the right people on the bus in the right positions. Nothing, Darren, in leadership happens by mistake. Nothing.
Absolutely.
It's all intentional and deliberate. Everything.
Such powerful stuff. And, I'll go back to something you said when you started that particular section that yeah, you have multiple different mantras, but here's the thing. Every single one of those, as you were going through them, what kept coming up in my mind is growth mindset, growth mindset, growth mindset, growth mindset. That is 100% what you are saying and what you are bringing to your school. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And man, I'll tell you what, our time has absolutely flown by in front of us. And there's which is totally fine. And I'm sure everybody listening has their time has flown listening. So there's 2 more questions I want to get to quickly. Obviously, I'll ask the question that I ask everybody here on the show, how you're leaning into leadership, but I'm going to do that one last. So let me ask this one. Again, this is a very special episode, a very special series with the finalists for middle school and high school National Principals of the Year through NASSP. Let's just talk very quickly about that. Let's talk very quickly about, one, how did you find out first that you were Connecticut Middle School Principal of the Year? I'm always curious to hear.
Yeah.
My students threw a huge assembly for me, and my daughter was out on the floor when they announced it.
Nice.
Which was really amazing. And then, of course, how did you find out about being a finalist? And this is giving you a new platform. What do you want to do with that platform? So quickly, those 3 questions. I said it was 1. I made it 3.
Yeah, that's okay. I have to say, can I just walk you through really quickly Connecticut's process? Yeah. So I was nominated by our superintendent and Heidi Pirovich, our school quality review staff member. So she emailed me and she said, Dr. Lewis, I want to nominate you for Connecticut State Principal of the Year, X, Y, and Z. And my evaluator was sitting there in my office because she was doing a visit at the time. And I said to my evaluator, Miss Shepard, Marianne, who's fantastic as well. Shout out to Marianne Shepard. I said, what, do you know anything about this? Do you know anything about this? And she said, maybe you should go for it. So I brought it back to my team, my admin team, and I said, I'm hemming and hawing. We've got a lot of work to do. And Evan Byron, love him, love my whole team, said, Damon, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. I said, okay. Then I brought it home to my beautiful family, my wife, Keisha. I have 3 children, daughter, Saray, and I have twins, Elijah and I. Brought it back to them, and they said, you know what, you got to do it. So, in a long story short, Connecticut, you have an 8-page application, which includes 5 essay questions. They called me and they told me I was a finalist for the state. And then they said, it's you and another principal in the state of Connecticut, and we have to do a site visit. So they come and do a site visit on top of that. So they do a site visit and they interview parents, they interview students, they interview teachers, they interview central office staff, they interview me, they take a walking tour of the building with some of our student ambassadors. They do all this. They did this on a Tuesday afternoon, And Darren, they called me Wednesday afternoon and said, Damon, you are the Connecticut Middle School Principal of the Year. And I was driving home, and I admit I almost crashed because I was crying my eyes out.
Yeah.
I was crying my eyes out. And just to show how aligned we are, I was actually talking to my assistant principal, Evan Byron, on the phone and my Bluetooth, and this strange number popped up. And I said, Evan, hold on for a minute. And I clicked over, and a guy from Connecticut called me. So Evan, I clicked back over, and Evan was actually the first one to know that I won. And then I hung
Oh,
up with
that's cool.
Evan and called my wife, instantaneously. And she was happy for me. She's crying, so we're both crying on the phone because it's not a position that I ever thought that I'd be in, Darren. Quite honestly, I've said that a few times, but it's really the truth. Because I went into this work not trying to be the best, you know what I mean? But I did go into this work wanting to do the best job for my kids, my families, and my community. So this was never on a bucket list for me. I want to be the best principal but I wanted to do the best job that I could do for the people that I served. The national award, I got an email from Ron Nuozi, from Ron at
Nazoe. Yeah.
Nazoe, yes, Nazoe, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, at NASSP. And it was right around Teacher Appreciation Week. And it was under the guise of, hey, we want to get a couple comments about teachers and how you support them and how you're going to celebrate them. So we're talking. He's talking about chronic absenteeism. I'm telling him, yeah, we send out letters, we make home visits, we go to social worker, we drag kids out of bed, not literally, get them to come to school. And he said, oh, by the way, I'm really calling you to let you know that you are a National Middle School of the Year finalist. And Darren, I lost it. Right on. I lost it. I probably lost it more than when I was the state winner. Just to be a national finalist is humbling.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like you've already made it. You're in the top 3 in the nation. Again, I just love the work I do, and with this platform, I know a lot comes with it. But they say with a lot of freedom comes a lot of responsibility. And through my football years, I got pretty big shoulders, so I can take that on.
Yeah.
I can take the load on. But the advocacy for public education is really deep in my heart. I believe public education is the best education. I'm a public education student. My entire family, public education. My wife is a one-to-one paraeducator. Our oldest daughter just finished her first year teaching at a high school. Our twins are just finished their freshman year in college. My daughter Naya is an animal science major at the University of Connecticut, and my son Elijah is going into education as well, physical education and health. So we're a family of educators. My dad, before he passed on, was an educator as well. So it kind of runs in our blood, and my mom was a retired nurse. So there's through line to me for my core values are always been based in faith and service, strong faith and service, and everything that you do that's aligned with your core values, Darren. Your core values are unwavering. You don't have a set of core values for home, then a different set of core values for work, then a different set of core values for the community. Your core values are your core values, and you take them with you everywhere you go. So in this role, as a finalist, I'm going to continue to advocate for the power of public education. I'm going to continue to advocate for students from marginalized communities, regardless of race or ethnic background. I'm going to continue to advocate for and talk about the importance of students seeing more minority educators and more minority leaders. And I'm saying that I have to make this point clear, Darren, not because I don't think non-minority teachers and leaders can help minority students. I do not think that. I think as long as you are in it for kids, it doesn't matter what color you are, what your ethnicity is. If kids are your number one agenda, that doesn't matter. But on the flip side, I do think it's really, really, really important for our kids to see people of color in positions of teaching and leadership, so that's something that they can aspire to. I really feel deep about that. I'm really big on the recruitment and hiring and retention of teachers and leaders of color. That's one of the reasons why I started the Black Male Administrators Group in Norwalk, to give us a sense of more of a sense of purpose, so we can bond and collect and connect on some of the strategies and things that we're using in our buildings to help our kids. Our job is all about advocacy. And that would be my platform, because I really want to increase the knowledge and the bandwidth around disproportionality. Okay. And I don't know if enough people have looked at that data, developed that problem of practice, and put in place that theory of action to help all kids, every kid, not just the top or the middle, every single kid. So again, we're accelerating where we have to and intervening where we have to for every single kid. Because I was one of those kids, Darren.
Sorry to interrupt you, man. Very, very powerful stuff right there. I love it so much. Let's get to that final question here on the show. This is the Leaning into Leadership podcast, and honestly, Dr. Lewis, you have shared so many ways that you are leaning into leadership, but perhaps maybe you can share one more thing you're doing to lean into leadership right now.
You know what? I will consistently and constantly lean into leadership in the arena of the cycle of continuous improvement. I'm constantly trying to get better. I'm never satisfied. And I think that has a lot to do with my athletic background. You're always going to your coach for feedback. I talk to my supervisor 2-3 times a week. Feedback. I never want to leave this constant cycle of improvement. So I lean into that every single day, regardless if it's the first day of school or it's day 181, which we're coming up on. We're constantly looking to get better. So my lean into leadership is that constant cycle of improvement, but it's also based in my core values, that I'm going to stay faithful to that constant cycle of improvement, that I'm going to stay faithful in providing service to the kids, families, and communities that I serve via this constant cycle of improvement, right? We never get off of this. People say, you're running on a treadmill all the time. I'm getting tired. See, I'm not getting tired. I want to stay on this treadmill of constant improvement. I don't want to get off, because then once I get off, I feel satisfied. And in this job, you can never feel satisfied. You can never come to a time where you can shut your door, put your hands behind your head, and put your feet up on your desk. When that happens, you've got to retire. You've got to give it up. I don't want to get off that. I don't want to get off that treadmill, Darren. I don't. But I'm going to stay on it for as long as I can. Because somebody did it for me. Because somebody did it for me, Darren. Somebody did it for me.
Outstanding stuff, man. I cannot thank you enough for your time and for this conversation. I'm certain our listeners and our viewers are absolutely filled with this conversation, and genuinely, on behalf of administrators everywhere, those of us who've had those opportunities to be in the trenches, in the arena, on behalf of kids and on behalf of adults. Thank you for the work that you do. Congratulations on this recognition. And whether you're the ultimate winner as National Middle School Principal of the Year or not, the work you are doing is absolutely fantastic. It's meaningful. It's powerful. And I, for one, am grateful to have made this connection with you.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate the opportunity. Again, I take nothing for granted. Absolutely nothing. So everything that I'm doing now is something that I've been called to do, really. And I thank my mother for sending me those letters in college and those newspaper articles, because you know what? If she didn't do that, I may be in that corner office, and thank God my mother did that. That was one of the largest pivots in my life, if not the largest.
Well, we're grateful that she did that as well, because certainly having you as a part of our profession certainly enriches our profession. So, Dr. Damon Lewis, thank you so much for joining me here on the Leaning into Leadership podcast.
Thank you for having me, Darren. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, folks, there you have it. That is the first of 6 episodes in this special series. Again, sitting down with the NASSP finalists for National Middle School and National High School Principal of the Year. Big special thank you to Damon Lewis for sitting down with me and having this conversation. I hope you came away with some amazing stuff there. I hope you took a bunch of notes. Make sure you reach out, get connected with Damon, and stay tuned for more, folks. In just 2 days, coming up in episode 216, the first of our high school finalists, Tony Catani, high school principal at Lenape High School in Medford, New Jersey. In the meantime, get out there, folks. Have a road to awesome week.